Welcome back, Irish fans, to Breaking Out Braves Boys podcast. Today, finally got Jake back, and we're going to talk about some quote position battles at Notre Dame summer basketball. Few rotation spots up for grabs. The top six is all but set with Hub, Cormac Ryan, Trey Wertz, Dane Goodwin, Laz, and Atkinson. There's your six, your starting five plus the six man, but the rest is all up for grabs, and we're definitely going to be talking about that today. So I guess I'll get into the first position battle. I think this one, I feel like this one, there's actually a good chance that winner has a rotation spot, loser doesn't. So Blake Wesley versus Robby Carmody, going to go through some advantages both have. Blake's advantages are probably shooting. He's a better ball handler. I think he's a little bit better as a defender, and obviously health is something he has a leg up in versus Carmody. And then Carmody, his age, definitely an advantage there. He's been at Notre Dame for a while. This would be his senior year, but he has a bunch of other eligibility left. I guess it is his senior year, but not eligibility-wise, not even close. And then athleticism and driving ability, if healthy, is also something I think he has on Wesley. But Blake is also a good downhill athlete and a guy who can get to the basket at a decent level, probably just not as well as Carmody. Jake, what would your thoughts be if this was a legitimate position battle, which it might be?
I think you definitely go with Carmody for now. Because of the experience, he's been there. He knows the team. He's been practicing, playing with them, even if it's not been to a huge extent. He is kind of there already. I think I would take him over as a defender over Wesley right now, just because I think a lot of that is experience. I think Blake is probably a better shooter. Athleticism is really up for grabs kind of thing. We're not really sure about that. I think both can have rotation spots, but I'm probably going to go Carmody for right now. I think both have to earn it, but Blake might have to work his way into the rotation a bit. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure I agree there, but for now, I think it's Carmody's job to lose heading into the summer. Like, I think we're going to know pretty quick if this is 2018 Robby Carmody or if this is washed up, lacking athleticism Robby Carmody that we're hoping to not see. But I guess it's kind of possible after all these injuries that is the Carmody we see. I think the thing that to note here is that Notre Dame isn't reliant on Robby Carmody anymore. I mean, the past few years, it's wow, we really could have used Robby Carmody. But to me, Blake Wesley can do a lot of things Carmody can do, and some of them he can do better. So I think when I look at it, I have a hard time kind of seeing Carmody holding on to this job unless he's 100% healthy, which I'm not sure how likely that is. I mean, I think Blake gives you a lot more on the offensive end. Carmody maybe gives you some stuff defensively. At least, well, maybe Blake doesn't give you more, but he does a lot of things well that I'm not sure Carmody does. Carmody can't shoot as well, especially from three. I don't even think Carmody's hit a three at Notre Dame. Maybe he's shooting like 13%, one of those two. But any other thoughts on that position battle? I know that one's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, I was thinking, the one advantage I give to Carmody is he's more of a wing than like the sort of combo guard that Notre Dame has a lot of. So that may play to his advantage, kind of because Wesley's that.
Yeah, I see Wesley as a wing, but I mean, Carmody's more of a wing. I don't really ever see Blake as a combo guard, but I agree. Like Blake's height is going to keep him with the combo guards when he's with who he's competing against. Like, do you really want to have Cormac, Trey, Prentice, and Blake all in the rotation? Those are probably all in your top 8 players overall, but I mean, they're all the same height and they can all essentially do the same things, even though Blake and Cormac are far above the other two defensively. So definitely something I agree with there, but I don't know. I think Blake has more of a chance than we think. And I could see Blake coming into the summer and wowing whoever he has to wow to get in the rotation. Any closing thoughts on that one?
None, really.
All right. So the next one, this one we've been debating for about a year before the injury to Elijah Taylor, but Zona versus Elijah Taylor. To me, Zona's advantages are obviously experience, even though he didn't get a whole lot of that. His health, obviously. I think he's a better shooter than Taylor, even though he didn't hit a three. If you look at his high school tape, he got a clean stroke and he hit threes pretty consistently in high school. So that's something that's the main reason why I think he really has a chance here. And he can fit into the offense a little bit better as a secondary option, in my opinion. If Taylor's going to have a nice scoring game offensively, he's going to be pretty ball dominant, whereas Zona can kind of just sit in the corner, shoot threes, and work out of the pick and roll a little bit better than Taylor can. But we really haven't seen what Taylor can do offensively at the next level, so some stuff yet to be seen there. But for Taylor's advantages, in my opinion, athleticism, shot blocking, that are out of the face-up. But either way, Notre Dame gets some physicality, energy, and rebounding off the bench with both, which they desperately need. So that's what I have for the advantages. Jake, you have a winner here, or do you think both these guys can maybe get spots? Or are you kind of torn, kind of like that?
I mean, yeah, I think both can get spots. I think both play exceptionally hard. I think they both play with fire that they haven't had many players play with. I think Taylor fits that better because he's a better athlete. I think Zona has a better, better shooting touch. I think he's probably slightly better on the boards just because of experience. I think Taylor's probably a better defender. I think he can really, if you could combine the two into one player, you would have a hell of a player, really, actually, come to think of it. So I think both can get minutes. I'd probably give Taylor the edge, but I'm not – I can't really say that for sure because I think they both have a lot to offer, really. I think Zona battles hard on the boards. He can get boards great, so I would give him the edge there. I think I think that's one to watch, really.
Yeah, this is the one I'm the most torn on. I mean, I kind of like Blake a little more than Carmody right now, especially considering Carmody's injury history. But this one, I had a really tough time, especially since we haven't seen Taylor. If this was last summer, I would have gone Taylor for sure. But I kind of like having Zona out there because he can shoot better, stretch the floor better, be a bigger part of the offense. But I think something to note also is that he has 3 inches on Elijah Taylor, and that could be really important in the ACC. Something I was thinking about, let me know what you think about this. But if Laz is the other big on the court, I lean Taylor. But if Atkinson is the other Atkinson's the other big on the court, I like Zona a little bit better. Kind of just like I'd like one shooter and then one guy inside out there. Let me know what you think about that.
That's an interesting thought because you're kind of both of those are you're kind of pairing the players who are more power forwards with players who are more centers. But I kind of get the thinking of it. And as you mentioned, they can also go small.
Yeah, like you could put it's not going to happen now, but you could also put Zona at the 5. I don't think you could put Taylor at the 5. So I think Zona's a bit more versatile, whereas Taylor, I don't think Taylor scores well enough from all 3 levels to be a wing. But Zona could be the 4 and the 5, and I don't think Taylor's tall enough to be the 5. So that's kind of my thinking there, is that Zona is a bit more versatile to have on the floor. Any closing thoughts on that position battle before we go into another battle of 2 pretty versatile players?
Should be interesting.
Definitely.
Should be interesting.
So the last real position battle we have, there's stuff I want to address after. But this one, I could honestly see neither of these guys getting a rotation spot, but there's a chance one of them does if they have a nice summer. Tony Sanders versus JR Konieczny. JR, better shooter. I think he's more polished offensively, has those guard skills. He has more explosive potential offensively. What I mean by that is JR could come off the bench and have a double-digit scoring day pretty easily. Sanders, I don't think you would really expect that off the bench until later in his career maybe. But JR is also more versatile offensively. Not a terrible perimeter defender either. He did say he thinks he needs to get a little bit better defensively, though. Tony, I think, is one of the better defenders on the team, so I'm going to give him that edge. More physical. If you looked at him, I don't think many people have noticed, but Tony Sanders actually kind of ripped. JR said he needs to put on weight, so I'll give Tony the advantage there. More versatile defensively just because of that size he has. And then I had a hard time giving Tony this because he didn't play much, averaged like 5 minutes a game, but I would say Tony does have the experience. These are kind of battle of the opposites here for now. Jake, thoughts on this potential position battle?
It's interesting because I feel like JR definitely has more potential because being a scorer like he is just gets you longer. But Sanders, I did like what I saw. I like what I saw, especially in the UNC game. I think he can hit a shot. I think he can defend. He's very athletic. You know, those are good skills to have. Whereas JR is really at this point just a really advanced scorer for his age, but maybe needs to get more physical otherwise. It's hard to say. I don't know if I ever get a rotation spot. I'm not really sure. This is probably the one I'm least certain of.
Really, I would honestly take JR for this one. To me, just because I think you'd like a guy who can score in bunches off the bench. And I think JR would be perfect for that. And he has put on some good weight. He said he gained 10 pounds between his junior and senior year. Now he has the whole summer in Notre Dame's weight program and the fall. So I think you could see some growth there. And I think just his offense is more valuable than Sanders' defense. But like you were kind of saying earlier, I think he's going to have a tougher time because he's more competing with like I don't think JR is going to play the 4 this year just because of his lack of physicality. I think it's going to be tough to play him there. So he's going to have to play against like Dane Goodwin, maybe Cormac or Wirtz for playing time, maybe even Blake to an extent. So it's kind of tough for me to see him on the floor in certain roles. It'd probably have to be as a wing, at least a 3 defensively, which I think he's actually pretty decent at. But Sanders, I think, as we've talked about in the past, is a lot more versatile. He could play the 4, which I think Notre Dame needs. Half this episode is talking about who can play the 4, Taylor, Zona, Sanders. So if Notre Dame wants to go small, I guess Tony Sanders is honestly taller than Elijah Taylor at 6'7", Taylor 6'6". So, I mean, there's stuff to like him both, but I don't know. They're so different, but I think I'm going to have to go JR just because of what he can give you offensively. I don't know if there's some teams I have a hard time throwing him on the floor against as a freshman, though. Any thoughts for that before I kind of wrap up?
I think it's like, they're kind of players where like, you really want to get something from them because they have intriguing skill sets. I think they have very good ceilings. I just don't know with how ready they are.
Yeah, I think
right now, really.
I kind of like JR's ceiling a little better, but definitely interesting thought there. I think they both have college-ready skills. Like in past years, maybe 2019-20, they could have both cracked – 2019-20, maybe they both could be rotation players. But now it's tough to see. So interesting there. But wanted to ask a few questions going into the summer, what you think about the rotation in general. We're definitely going to have more updates throughout the summer and maybe throughout the fall about what it's going to look like and who's playing well, maybe who's won some of these battles. But going into the summer, how big do you think the rotation is going to be? I think we both said 8 last year. You think if they bump it up to 9 with all the talent they have this year, or keep it at 8?
8.5?
I think you said the same thing last summer, actually.
No, I don't think I did because I think I said 7.5.
All right. You love to have
the injuries.
Yeah.
I think you definitely have starting lineup and then the other 2 guard. You definitely have. So you're really going through Wesley, Carmody, Zona, Taylor. So that's at least 8. I think you can get spot minutes from other guys. So you're looking at 8.5 or 9, really, I would say.
Yeah. So you're thinking a rotation looks like the 5 and then either Wirtz, Ryan, or Goodwin off the bench. And then Zona, Taylor. You say Carmody too? Or are you
I
three?
think Carmody, Wesley, and then one or two of the other four. So that's JR, Sanders, Zona, Taylor. So you're kind of looking at 8.5, 9.
Gotcha. I was kind of thinking the same thing as you actually. Maybe not for the players. I was kind of thinking, I know it might be unpopular to hold Carmody out now. I just have a hard time putting him in right now with his health issues. I was going to say the six.
That's totally understandable.
I was going to say six, then Elijah, Zona, and then you get, depending on matchups, you get contributions from JR and Carmody. I kind of have a hard time seeing Tony get into some games, especially with how good Blake and Robby are defensively when they're good to go. So definitely interesting there. Thoughts on my rotation? I think it's a little different than yours, not like super different.
I mean, I think one thing to remember is the rotation can be fluid. It doesn't have to be one set rotation throughout the year. I think we saw the lineup change last year after it didn't at all last year, except for 2 games when there was somebody hurt. I think it can change because a player could get better throughout the season. And Bray says, "Oh, well, maybe he deserves spot minutes."
Yeah, makes sense. And then lastly, summer ball starts next week. Probably players report to campus on Sunday. Anything you're really looking for this summer? Maybe these position battles, maybe them building a defensive identity. Anything you're really looking forward to when the players get back playing?
I'm looking forward to, I think the 4 guys I really want to see how they do is, well, Wesley to an extent, but Sanders, JR, and I think Carmody to an extent, and then, Zona and Taylor, mainly those 4 because you don't really know what you have in them. It would be good to learn what we have.
For sure. Hopefully we get some video or something. Last summer they weren't even on campus, but last fall, I don't think we got like a single clip the entire fall practices last summer. So hopefully that changes, and maybe we get something the media can get into the practice facility, or we hear from Bray early in the summer. Would definitely be nice, but we'll see. So thank you guys for watching. I think that's all we got. Looking forward to summer basketball, and we'll keep you updated here if anything breaks. Notre Dame has a recruiting update, or any observations come out from practice. So thank you guys for watching. Go Irish. Peace.